congratulations on your work, your red top, and becoming a Labour MP when you won the election. Today we came because I was invited to speak to a large group of students at Leeds University later on this afternoon, which I'll be doing as part of their New Students Freshers Week. There'll be a huge number there. I'm looking forward to that, to talk to them about education and our National Education Service. But I promised on New Year's Eve 2015 that the businesses and places I visited in Leeds that were flooded out that day, I said I'll come back when you're working normally. And one of the places is a climbing centre that was indeed flooded out and reopened months later. So I went back there this morning to see how they're getting on and wish them well, and they made me climb the wall. It is a climbing centre after all, but all I can say is it's better than dancing. And it's great to see that sort of sense of community spirit around what they were doing and what they're achieving there. But of course they're very worried, because after that visit in December 2015, New Year's Eve, I made the whole of the next Prime Minister's Question Time just about the floods in York, in Carlisle and in Leeds. And David Cameron said in terms, absolutely, that there will be no difficulty. The government will fund all flood prevention measures that are necessary. That is nearly 3 years ago. And Leeds is still waiting for that last tranche of money to stop the flooding coming into the city and to make sure there's proper upstream planting to prevent flooding in the future. I simply say this: if a government makes a pledge to do something, they should do it and stick up for it. We'll make it very clear that we will provide the resources necessary to protect places from flooding, but also to have intelligent river basin management so that we have a natural way of protecting against floods in the future by not building on floodplains, by planting more trees, by having flooding of agricultural land if necessary in order to act as a temporary reservoir to protect urban areas. We will have a sensible, joined up, intelligent approach to it, unlike what this government has. You would have observed we had a conference 2 weeks ago, and somebody else had a conference which finished yesterday. Our conference, our Labour conference, I was so proud of it, was the biggest Labour Party conference there has ever been in our history. Our estimate, 14,000 people attended the Labour Party conference, and we had over 500 fringe events at the conference. And I met a young woman on the train this morning who works for the railways, and she said it was the first time she'd been to a Labour Party conference. And I said, honestly, what did you make of it? She said she was totally bowled over by a number of things. The friendliness, the kindness, and the inclusive way that she was treated at the conference, and the fact that there were so many events going on that the whole party was bubbling over with ideas of the kind of world we could live in, ideas of what we can achieve. And she felt completely inspired by it all. I didn't get to that many fringe events. I had lots of things that I had to do, but you could feel that atmosphere there of people with a lot of real life experience talking to the conference and talking to the resolutions. I don't know how many of you watched or followed the conference on television, but I thought the speech made by a woman, Mona, from Kensington about the reality of Grenfell, what she had been through, what the community had been through, that was a real life experience, because that is what our party of more than 500,000 members is really about. It's about people understanding the community in which they live, understanding the joys and the difficulties that all communities face, but above all, understanding what kind of world that we can live in. So what do we have? Instead of the Tories, you get, when they can fill the hall up, which obviously at times is quite difficult for them, it's quite challenging. I should imagine it's quite a big hall they met in. But you seem to have a full hall here. We need more chairs, actually. It's a problem I'm having to cope with, because we offer something different. We offer something very different. In the general election last year, We offered a manifesto, launched here in Bradford, which was a transformative agenda, which was about redistribution of power and wealth in our society, and was about giving real hope to people. And above all, it was saying the economics and politics of austerity since 2010 have driven 400,000 more children into poverty, increased the number of homeless people by a huge number, depressed wages, cut public sector jobs, made access to social care more difficult, made the mental health crisis much worse, and made the opportunities for young people in school worse and worse. That was a political choice to pursue the politics of austerity, a political choice to cut local government expenditure in order to, in their words, balance the books, which they've not done, but at the same time fund the tax giveaways to the very richest within our society. We now live in a more unequal society than almost ever. More and more children going to school hungry and underachieving, and more speculative development of luxury properties in London and the South East, which does nothing whatsoever to help the housing crisis that people all over this country are facing. Don't tell me that Theresa May knows what she's doing. Don't tell me they're the party of responsibility. And please don't lecture me on patriotism. My idea of patriotism is not walking by on the other side when some of our fellow citizens are sleeping rough or going through a crisis, or young men taking their own lives because of a mental health crisis. My idea of patriotism is you support everybody in your community. You don't prejudge. You support them in their hour of need and recognise that in all of us there is something there to achieve something for everybody, which is why I'm very proud of the manifesto that contained the pledge to establish a national education service. The 1945 to 51 Labour government's great legacy has got to be the National Health Service. Healthcare, free at the point of use, on the basis of need. Fantastic. And it's still there, and it will be there for all time, so as long as we have anything to do with it. I want a national education service, an overarching national education service that does provide free education from cradle to grave, and does make sure that all children have a real chance in life. And that's why I was very proud to put in my speech to party conference the announcement we've made about preschool provision. You'll understand this very well, because of Joe's work with children and children in poverty. Sadly, at the moment, you could look at the life chances of any 2-year-old child, barely stopped being a baby at 2, and you could sadly work out what's likely to happen to them later on in life. Which one's going to go to a nursery? Which isn't? Which is going to go to a well-funded primary school? Which isn't? Which is going to get the computers at home? Which isn't? Which is going to get a good meal every day? Which one isn't? And you look at the patterns of poverty, underachievement, and the sheer waste of human resources and human endeavour and stunting of people's lives because we don't treat all children equally. I am absolutely determined that we will provide free preschool facilities, opportunities for every 2 to 4-year-old for a minimum of 30 hours a week, and if they want more and they're in need, they will get more, so that those parents in work won't go through this terrible stress of trying to persuade their employer to let them leave at 4 o'clock in order to pick up a child from nursery, and all that kind of stress. And not putting head teachers through this terrible strain of deciding every July at the end of term, when they should be getting a bit of downtime and a bit of a break, which teachers have I got to get rid of? If it's a secondary school, which subjects have I got to drop? All those kind of painful decisions they have to make at the moment because we're not funding our schools properly. I'm determined we will change that. And I'm also determined that we will do 2 more things. Well, many more, but 2 more to want to mention to you. The first one is a pupil arts premium, so that every child in every school in every part of the UK gets the chance to learn a musical instrument
Yes.
and learn in all of us, and learning music helps in lots of other ways as well. And I'm determined that we should achieve that. And then there is, later on, the difficult choices you have to make. Those children that are pushed into making actually quite dramatic subject choices at the age of 14 or 15 that can be life-changing. And the schools, under intense pressure because of competition between schools, end up then disregarding the less well-achieving pupils in favour of the well-achieving. This isn't so for all schools, it's not universal, but I'm sorry to say it does happen in some places. I want us to reduce the competition, reduce the obsession with league tables, and go much more on the whole child and the whole school population and support all of them. Support all of them to achieve their very best. And when you come to post-school education, those that want to go to university, good. Well done. I support you in that. And we will end fees and charges in universities and bring back maintenance grants. But also, have real equality of esteem between vocational and academic qualifications. Because a society needs engineers, it needs plumbers, it needs electricians, it needs doctors, it needs nurses, it needs all those kind of things. The sheer waste of not giving young people a chance in school or college or university is a waste for all of us in the future. A Labour government investing in education, investing in health, investing in the economy through a national investment bank and regional transformation funds will make a very big difference. But what it's really all about, overarching, is attitudes towards people. Do we see people as a commodity? Do we see people as just numbers that might or might not vote for us next year, next month, or whenever an election comes about? Or do we see the development of a community and what we do? And so as a party, I'm very pleased that we've now appointed community organisers around the country. I'm pleased with the amount of campaigning we're doing. I'm pleased with the real life campaigning we're doing on defending our health service, our education, but also opening up people's eyes to what is possible in the future. And so, in opposition, we challenge the government, we challenge them on their sheer incompetence on dealing with the European Union, their sheer incompetence on the failure to protect jobs, their sheer incompetence at giving any kind of guarantees and protection of environmental standards, workers' rights, or any other rights within our society. And I believe that as a Labour Party, we showed last year just how strong we are and just how big we are. We showed the levels of support we've got, and we showed what we're about as a party leading in the communities all over the country. And so if an election comes in the near future, I'm absolutely ready for it. The only thing I'm going to do differently is this time I'm going to do it properly. I'm not going to restrict myself to 100 events in an election campaign. We're going to be everywhere. We'll take that message out about the kind of party we are and the kind of people that we're going to be electing to represent us in that next parliament and the kind of government we're going to be. I don't pretend there's not going to be enormous difficulties and enormous challenges thrown at us. And when people throw things at you, you realise, well, actually, it shows they haven't really got very much to say. Because all the stuff that's been written, actually very unkind. If I took things personally, I'd take it personally. But I don't, and I won't, and I don't care. Because as far as I'm concerned, our job is to stand up for those who are having a really hard time within our society. To create a society that does genuinely care for all. To build those houses that will provide people with somewhere decent to live in the long term. To protect our environment. But above all, to build communities. I am very proud to represent a constituency where there are probably about 80 different languages spoken. There are people from all over the world who have made their homes there and make a fantastic contribution to our community. I love it, I support them, I love working with them, and I welcome them. Racism is something I multicultural, multi-faith society as a problem. I see it as something wonderful, something very,
Yeah.
very strong. We live in. So we do not tolerate racism in any form whatsoever. Be it anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, far-right racism, or anything. We absolutely do not tolerate it in any way. Because we want to live in a world that doesn't tolerate it either. I want to lead a government whose priorities on the world stage are environmental protection, democracy, peace, justice, and human rights. Has grown. Our membership is the biggest it's ever been. Our conference was superb, and we now are into a lot more work on policy development. Not me, lots of people. Lots of people with lots of ideas of how you can do things differently. We sent out 50 questions on housing and had thousands of responses. Everything we send out, we get loads and loads of responses and lots of really, really good ideas. And so when the next election does come around, people will see in that manifesto, yeah, I heard about that. I heard Labour talking about that. I made my contribution at a public meeting about that. That was my view on housing. That was my view on social care. It's an aggregation of the skills and the ideas of so many people, which is going to make us such a very strong force in the next election. And so the interesting thing is about communication. I'll finish on this. If we relied on the printed press to get our messages across, it would be quite difficult, because not many of them report very much. And indeed, those that do report tend to have pages and pages of comment on what one of us did or didn't say, with actually very little factual reporting of what actually went on. We do a bit better on broadcast media, we do much better on social media. And so for us, the key is a combination of those street and community and school gate and pub conversations that you have with people, as well as a presence on the social media which is challenging to what the right say about us, but above all, putting forward that sense of unity in our diversity and the strength of what our party is about. We know which constituencies we've got to win a general election. I've been to 85 constituencies in the past year, and talking to members about their enthusiasm and what they do campaigning-wise. And it's infectious, fantastic what we're achieving. The regional economic conferences we're doing, all these things adding up to that sense of confidence and feeling of hope that we can win an election. So I simply say to the Tories, they must be very, very tired after their difficult few days in bed. So I think they should take a longer rest. Ready for a general election anytime they care to bring it on. We're going to go out there to win it, not for ourselves, not for any of the individuals on this platform, but for the people that created this party, the people that sustained this party, the people that have invested their hopes for a future, a decent, civilized, peaceful future, where we don't pass by on the other side to fellow citizens in difficulty. That is the prize, and that is the campaign we're going to mount, and that is why Joe is going to be the next MP.